23 minutes before 7 here on Morning Live. It's good for you to be with us, but let's turn our attention away from what happened in Sandton, Johannesburg for the Greyston Bridge. We'll continue to focus on that a bit later on. But right now, at the recently held African National Congress, the 4th National General Council, discussions at the conference were described by ANC leaders as being in-depth, robust, widespread and far-reaching. The ANC Youth League, who were recently re-established after being disbanded in 2013 by the ANC, also participated in the discussions. Well, joining us in studio now to tell us a little bit more this morning about what went on during the Youth League's discussion and what resolutions were taken is the Youth League's Mlondolozi Mkhize. Good to have you. Welcome to Morning Live.
Good morning, Leanne, and good morning to viewers at home.
So, we saw the ANC Secretary General, Gwedi Montashe, kept reiterating that the NGC was meant to review policy in terms of the ANC Youth League. Which policies were actually reviewed?
Well, looking at the NGC, for us it was informed by the resolutions that we had from our recently held 25th National Congress, which was held in Galaga. Amongst those is the issue that we were saying that youth representation ought to be 40%, and leaving that NGC we left with 20%, and we are still going to pursue the remaining 20% that makes up the total 40% in the policy conference and the national congress, in the national conference in 2017. For the purpose of that is to integrate the old and the young for a practical gaining of experience while you still have the wisdom of the old, and ensuring that the youth which is the world which is becoming young is finding expression in all our governance institutions and in the economy as a whole. So what issues did you put on the table? Well, for instance, I know that the country, particularly the opposition, is complaining about the fact that the ANC NGC took a resolution that the government needs to pull out of the ICC. Those are amongst other things that we had. The second one, which we carried through in that NGC, was the issue of e-toll. As we sit now, the NGC of the ANC said that the government must speed up a process of finding alternative methods of paying for the e-toll and the upgrades of the road in Gauteng. The other one is an issue of free education. We have it. The NGC made specific time frames that by 2019, government must start to implement free education. And we think that as the African National Congress Youth League, emerging out of that NGC, we have made some serious inroads. We were not there to shout. We were there to reason. For discussions and debates are about reasoning, and we feel that out of the many discussions we've had, we've been able to do so, including in the economy. We're saying, look, we can't continue the way we are. Land must go back, people must get skills, we must transform the economy. We're encouraging young people to go to different sorts of sectors of the economy. Mining is one of them, agriculture to be specific, because we feel that that is one aspect that has been left out unattended to. So those are the matters that we've been carrying through to that NGC, and that we're steadfast in saying that this NGC can never be used as a platform to launch anyone as a leader after the president, after the sitting president or the current leadership. This NGC was about and focused mainly on policy decisions, the implementation of the decisions of government, and that of the African National Congress since 2012. I want to focus a little bit more on education, because, I mean, as the Youth League, to position yourself in the fight for free education is, I imagine, where you really find a huge priority. Yesterday, having a look at some of the events that were unfolding at the University of the Witwatersrand, what is your view on all of this? I mean, we saw lectures being disrupted. We saw quite a lot of very, very intense vocal exchanges there, and a lot of very upset pupils about increases in fees there. Give us the ANC Youth League's view. We are in full support of what the students of VETS are going through. In fact, we will be meeting them before this week ends, most probably on Friday, if not today late. Our main concern is that you cannot have systems that continuously increases fees when we are not seeing the return of those fees to salaries that get paid to people who are working in the university. Now, the question then becomes, where do these fees go to? The other question is, a 10% increase of fees, what is the justification? We are currently sitting with a problem as the nation where the president had convened recently VCs and chairpersons of council, saying to them, we must find alternative methods of financing students even beyond the current mechanisms that are there. And to increase student fees with 10% is seriously unreasonable, because when you increase that, people might think 10% is something little. But when you look at the total cost of a module per module and you combine those and you put 10% and you look at resident fees, that amount might become to be exorbitant and unexplainable. And that's why we're saying we're with those students. We're saying the leadership of that university, students and management, must look at that issue, because we cannot afford to have a continuous strikes, because those affect the academic calendar and put pressure on students unnecessarily. We're saying that the leadership and the management of that campus and that university must find other ways. We can't accept 10% increase of fees.
What you're asking for really is free education throughout, from the lower grades in school all the way up to university. Now, we already see that government puts the majority of its spend into education, and it's unable to do that. Do you think that it is possible that government can actually offer free education to all without putting more of a strain on the economy?
Well, we think that it is possible. For instance, there are many options that we are looking at. We just want to fine-tune them for concrete proposal at the policy conference of the ANC. Amongst those is to look at a certain percentage of tax that is being set aside for education. Amongst those is to look at methods, maybe government ventures that can be established to deal with this. Amongst those is to encourage institutions, for instance, to establish businesses that are going to assist to fund students. You know, there are things that we don't think about as a nation. For instance, you would have universities that are teaching engineering, that are teaching all sorts of things. When they build a building, they don't look at using the same students they are teaching to put them practical meaning of building a building, of being an architect students, of drawing and designing a building. As a result, they end up paying exorbitant amounts for constructing and consultants. Part of reducing those spendings is to such things. Amongst other things that we're saying is that there are big businesses here in South Africa. Some of them must be compelled by legislation to invest, because you cannot have any nation that will prosper without necessarily taking care of the youth, without necessarily dealing with education. And some of our people don't get access to education because they are confined by limits of money. And by the way, Lian, we are saying we want to go beyond the constraints of money. We want to speak to the content of education that is being taught in South Africa, because when you look at the graduates that stay at home unemployed and you look at the available jobs in the market, it tells us that there is a disjuncture between what is required by the market and what is being offered by those that are training what the market should consume.
All right. Thank you for talking to us. Thank you for giving us the ANC Youth League's perception of, firstly, the African National Congress's 4th General Council. Had a huge representation there, and also discussing some of the issues put on the table, but really focusing in on education, especially in the light of what's been happening at the University of the Witwatersrand. That was happening yesterday. Mlondolozi Mkhize, thank you so much for joining us here on the program.
Thank you, Lian.
Let's take a break. See you after this.